I'm caffeinated. Hi, I'm Grace with Trollord Games, and it's time to break out those favorite fantasy fanfics that you wrote in middle school, because today we're building our first character in Castles and Crusades. In this series, we're diving into each part of the character sheet and getting you familiar with the basics of the game. Today, we're focusing on attribute scores and their modifiers. When creating a character and determining their attribute scores, it's important to have an idea in mind of who and what you want to play. Castles and Crusades offers 13 different classes in their player's handbook and an additional 12 in the adventurer's backpack, and they all have their own unique features and abilities. So take some time to pick a class that seems fun to play, and then flesh out your character's backstory, their personality, their wants, their needs, their fears, their trauma, etc. And keep in mind, there is no wrong way to design a character. Lots of people draw inspiration from their favorite books and movies, and there are plenty of gaming supplements that are available on the market if you're having trouble coming up with ideas. Whatever you choose, make sure that it's a character you'll have fun playing, and one that the rest of your gaming table will enjoy playing alongside. For this example, our player Nick has decided that he wants to play as Grognar, the human fighter from the small town of Havensford. But before Grognar can start his quest, we have to make him first. Once you have your character in mind, you'll have to generate your attribute scores for strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. These 6 attributes are the foundation of play. To come up with your attribute scores, you'll need to roll 3 6-sided dice. Add the total that you get together and assign that number to any attribute score you want. You'll be doing this 6 times for each attribute score. And as a note, this is just one of several ways of generating attributes. Your castle keeper might want you to use a different method, so be sure to consult with them before you create your character. You do not want to be on the castle keeper's bad side. After Nick finished rolling, he ends up with these totals, and will assign them based on how he wants to portray and play Grognar. Since Grognar is a fighter, this means that he's required to select strength as one of his primary attributes. Every class has a set primary attribute that can't be changed. And since Grognar is a human, Nick gets to choose 2 additional primary attributes. To learn more about primary and secondary attributes and skill checks in general, go watch our previous video in this series. Since Nick wants Grognar to be durable and capable of weathering threats in and out of combat, he decides to choose Constitution as one of his primary attributes. He also wants Grognar to be a little bit more personable and comfortable in social situations, so he chooses Charisma as his final primary attribute. Looking at the numbers that Nick rolled and having determined which attributes are primary and secondary, he can now confidently assign the numbers he rolled for Grognar. Wanting to be an absolute powerhouse on the battlefield, Nick decides that Strength will be Grognar's best attribute, and is given the 17, followed closely by Constitution with a score of 15. He decides to assign the rest of the scores like this. Keep in mind that there's no rule stating that your highest scores need to be assigned as your primary attributes. There might be advantages to shoring up a low score in one attribute by making it a primary. With our attributes set, we can now find the modifier for each attribute. Put simply, a modifier is a number determined by your attribute score that you add to rolls that you make in the game. These are found in this handy-dandy chart on page 14 of the 9th printing of the player's handbook. With our scores set, and with our handy modifier table as a reference, we can determine what the modifiers are for each of Grognar's attributes. They look like this. Now let's take a look at the modifiers in action. When Grognar attempts to perform a feat of great athleticism, we'll get to add his strength modifier and his level to the check. Grognar is attempting to leap over a massive chasm. The castle keeper decides to call for a strength check from Grognar. Nick will roll a d20 and add both Grognar's strength modifier plus his level for a total bonus of +3. Nick rolls a 12 on the dice for a total of 15, and successfully leaps over the chasm, avoiding certain death. Let's look at another example. All of this physical activity has left Grognar hungry. He decides to go foraging, and stumbles across a delicious-looking mushroom. The castle keeper decides to call for an intelligence check. What could go wrong? Again, following the same formula as before, Nick rolls a d20 and adds his intelligence modifier as well as his level. In this instance, Nick rolls a 5, subtracts 2 because his intelligence modifier is -2 and adds his level. This brings his total check to a 4. Unfortunately, Grognar was not blessed with an abundance of intelligence. Had he been, he might have realized that the mushroom he just ate was highly poisonous and perishes a few days later from complete renal failure. With so many dangers and opportunities out in the world for Grognar, it's important to keep in mind his strengths and weaknesses. If you can do that, you're basically guaranteed to live to sea level 2. From all of us here at Troll Games, may your castles be sturdy, your dice favorable, and always remember Rule 19. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, and Fireball beats all of the goblins playing rock, paper, scissors. See you next time.